The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everybody. This is Pete Baker with the Big Corp, and I hope everyone's doing well. We're going to get started here in just a few minutes with this Rust Sound webinar. Thanks for joining us.
Okay, Pete, we're ready to go.
All right, fantastic. Thank you, Dan, and thank you, everybody, for joining us today. We have a great presentation ahead, and very honored to be joined with Jan Cheris, who is the Director of Training for Rust Sound, and he is going to lead this Rust Sound webinar and training, talking about the advanced multi-room systems from the leader in distributed audio, Rust Sound. And it's going to take about an hour, maybe 50 minutes to go through the webinar. And I will be on the chat window if you have any questions. And I'll also be joined by Mr. Steve Doobie on the chat window as well, who will also be answering questions as they come in. So I hope everyone is staying safe and healthy, and I really applaud you for investing the time during this crazy period in our world history to learn a little bit more about Rust Sound and invest in training and education. I think that's exactly what each one of us should be doing. I'm doing it. I'm taking a lot of training and learning a lot during this crazy period. So good for you for doing that as well. And I think that there's a lot to be gained as we go through this webinar. You'll find out why Rust Sound is just such a great option for you to offer your clients. It's a professional grade distributed audio solution. It also offers you some unique benefits that you don't get with a lot of the over-the-counter direct-to-consumer type products, like really good third-party integration, the limited availability. The products are protected by the RCI, Rust Sound Certified Installer Program. So that means if you order these products and propose them to your clients, you would need to unlock them, which is very, very easy to do. You just go to the client's house when you hook up the system, jump onto their network, and type in your Rust Sound credentials, and it unlocks the system. But that also protects you from gray market internet sales and people that want to try and sell these products really cheap online. We don't allow that. We never have, and we never plan to. All the Rust Sound products are intended to be professionally installed, all of the Rust Sound RCI products. And you'll also find out a lot of the other great benefits that we have to offer with the MBX products and some of the really cool IC series speakers that we introduced just recently. They're really fantastic speakers. It allows you to make great margin on these products, and you end up getting a much, much better speaker and the ability to make a lot more money and sell it at a great value as well to your end user customer. So thanks again for joining us, and I'm going to let you take it away, Dan. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Peter. Always a pleasure to work with you. Hello, welcome to Russound. Thank you for joining us this evening. We're going to talk about advanced audio, multi-room audio systems today. What I want to do is I'd like to get you familiar with the MCA series controllers, as well as the MBX series audio streamers and IC speakers, IC series speakers as well. And you put all these together, and you're going to come up with a state-of-the-art system that is just absolutely the best choice for any home. These are easy to operate, loaded with features. We just did a complete revamp of the My Russound app, for example. We made things so simple. It's what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover all that stuff with you tonight. And but one of the things I want to thank you for is that there's a whole bunch of you out there. We got record registrations here at Russound. You guys and gals all helped us set a new record. So thank you for that. And I really appreciate that. We really appreciate your business. We got two great guys in there. We got Pete Baker and we got Steve Doobie to answer your questions. I'm just going to keep on rolling, and you go ahead and type those questions in, and those guys will get back to you in real time. They're sitting there looking at the chat screen waiting for your questions. So no worries there. And if there's any worry, these questions will also be going to tech support first thing in the morning for follow-up as well. So with all of that, thanks again for joining us. And welcome to Russound. And we're going to start here with multi-room audio controllers because that's the heart of every multi-room audio system out there. The core component that you use to distribute your favorite music throughout the home is called a controller. This guy is a part multi-channel amplifier, it's part audio matrix, but it's actually the brain of what's called a centralized multi-zone audio system. Centralized system is a system that all the equipment lives in one spot, and all the system wiring is home run back to that one spot. So you'll have your controller and such in a equipment closet or equipment room, what have you, and then you're running Cat5 and speaker wire out to all the zones. You don't even really need to use the Cat5 if you don't care to use the app, but hardwire interfaces are always a good idea. They're always right there, right in the same spot. They don't move. So yeah, it's right there at your fingertips. And plus having a touch screen in a centralized area of the home, the family room, the dining room, what have you, is always quite impressive as well. So you got to make sure your customers have one of those guys as well. But the centralized audio system, all the equipment lives in one spot, but the brain is called the controller. In other words, it's a box all your favorite sources get hooked to, and then you can control all of these sources by way of the Russound multi-zone controllers. First, we're going to have a look at this guy, the MCA 66. This guy is state of the art. This one is one of my personal favorites. It fits perfectly in any average size system out there. You know, the average home system being 4 to 6 rooms. The MCA 66 does a nice job covering that. The front panel first, you can see that across the front here, not much going on. You got 6 zone LEDs. They're green when the zone is on. They're not when the zone is off. You got a power button right there. And that's about all you got right there. The customer doesn't interface with the controller at all other than through their app. So there's no need for lots of lights and buttons and confusion on the front here. But it is set up for you folks out there in the field that like to install these puppies, because what you got here as well is here of the MCA66. There is an onboard IR code library for about any source you would hook to this guy. Hundreds and hundreds of codes live on board, but if for any reason the source you plugged in, you cannot find the IR code on board, you can always program it. All you do is just do a little IR programming, and you flip down this smoke panel right here, and what you'll see behind it is your programming center, where you just take the native remote control for the source that is not in the library, and you point it at this guy, and you press a series of buttons, and you get LED confirmation as well. That it's a talkback LED that lets you know it's confirmed. You can program and play, start, pause, whatever you want to. All the buttons on the remote, but who would? And so any source can be hooked up to the MCA66. A quick look across the back panel right here. As you can see, this is designed by installers for installers, very nicely laid out. It's got all the things that you would ever need for the ultimate 6-zone system out there. These ARNet links in and out. The reason for these guys is if I was going to expand from 6 zones to 12 zones, all I would do is put a little piece of Cat5 between the two controllers, ARNet link in and out, to in or out, whatever. Out to in to out, doesn't matter. It's two-way communication. So that's for system expansion. Keypad ports, I got 6 keypad ports here, 1 for each of the 6 zones. Plus, I have 6 source inputs right across here. And when you move over just a little bit, what you'll see here is we have 6 sets of amplified speaker outputs, 20 watts per channel to each zone. Zone number 1 and zone number 2 also have preamp output right here, so that for system expansion. So if I was going to put together a couple of big zones, for example, what I would do is I would hook a pair of speakers up to here for that room, and then I would connect an amplifier here to drive more speakers in that same room. Excuse me. And same thing for zone number 2. And I can set it to either fixed or variable. One of the cool things is the preamp output and the speaker outputs are active at the same time. So it's not an either or. I can use both. And right here, you have your controller ID selector wheel right here. So if you have multiple controllers, you want to assign a controller ID to each one. Plus routed IR, also known as source specific IR. Routed IR is something that, being source specific, if I had multiple sources that are similar sources with identical IR codes, I don't have to worry about IR bleed over, do I? Because I have routed IR. If I select source number 1, IR will only spit out of port number 1 and so on. Right here, we have a series of bank of triggers right here for triggering additional amplifiers and page support. Paging trigger right here. If I wanted to add a pager to my MCA66, all I would do is I would take a third-party pager. I would take the audio outputs from that pager, run them right to this input right here on number 8, and then I would go into web config and select number 8 as paging source. Then I would connect the trigger output from that third-party source, paging source, to right here. So when I trigger a page, it cues all of the audio gets muted, for example. So when I cue a page, audio will disappear while I'm broadcasting that page. And as soon as I let go of that page button, boom, it comes right back. So that's how the third-party paging system would trigger this, guys, right through here, right here, excuse me. And then theater triggers, input and output. We'll talk about those a little later on. Plus, you have a input right here, output for, for the BTC1X for Bluetooth. And if I choose to use Bluetooth on this guy, go into web config and say, yes, I'd like to use Bluetooth. And I'm going to use a BTC1X. So that would become source number 1. And I have an output for source number 1 as well, so that I can share that Bluetooth module between controllers in a multi-controller situation. I would just do the output from controller number 1 to controller number 2 input. Out of that one, input on the next. Then I would be able to share that Bluetooth right there. Plus, we have 3 video as well. So digital, excuse me. We have 3 digital inputs. So with those guys, some of the digital sources you may have, cable boxes, things along those lines, you can use your digital inputs as well. So that's the MCA 66. It's 6 source inputs, 6 amplified zones, which is 20 watts by 2 to each of these zones. 3 digital audio source inputs. Buffered loop output for source number 1. Line out for zones 1 and 2. Complete system control through the Myra Sound application. And the Myra Sound app is something that you'll see has been completely redone. It's got a new look, it's got a new feel, it's got new features. Done a real nice job with it. And again, Bluetooth support with the optional BTC1X module right there. Now for the line output connections, this is actually how they work right here. I could take, for example, my speaker outputs right there, and I could drive a pair of speakers right off there at 20 watts per channel. Then I could run my amplifier from my preamp outputs. We'll add a little A2100, excuse me, and I can add another pair of speakers that way. So now I'm driving 2 pairs of speakers in that zone. I could have come off here into a D1650 and ran 16 pairs off here if I want. So great way to create an outdoor zone. We take zone number 2, same thing. Wire a pair of speakers right to the speaker outputs. Then into an amplifier. And now this time we're into a small room that's going to have, and I'm going to add a subwoofer to the system as well. So as you can see, for sound reinforcement, all you really need is zone number 1, zone number 2, preamp outputs. But if you don't have the preamp outs, you're dead in the water right there. So that's something that you'll see when we get to the MCA 88, that that guy has preamp outputs for all 8 zones. So you can add amplifiers, powered subwoofers, whatever you'd like. Zone linking. Now this is something that a lot of installers out there miss this one. I mention this one sometimes and they go, oh, geez, that does that, doesn't it? Wow, I shouldn't have remembered that. But zone linking, what a great feature. You know, as I mentioned, the average system out there is 4 to 6 zones, right? So what if I have this 6-zone amplifier right here, MCA 66? This one happens to be an 88. Doesn't matter. If I'm not using all of the zones, I have leftover zones, right? So let's say on this MCA 88 right here, I'm only using the first 4 zones, for example, or 5, whatever. I have leftover zones that are not being used. They're being wasted. I have 40 watt per channel digital amplifiers sitting there doing nothing. And I may want to add more speakers to some of these zones. Well, with zone linking, I can link zones together as one single zone. So a single interface can be used to control one or more zone outputs. Like in this case, I've taken zone number 5 and number 6 and linked them together. Zone linking, I went right into web config and just said I want to do zone linking. I can do up to 2 groups of linking. I could take, say, zone 1, 2, and 3 and zone group those together and run 3 pairs of speakers in one room. I could zone link these 3 together and run them in a single zone, 3 pairs of speakers. You catch my drift? So it's ideal for systems with fewer but larger zones. Zone linking. No need to go out and buy outboard amplifiers. They're right there. They're right on board. Let's use them. It's the installer's go-to solution for sound reinforcement in a zone. Pretty cool stuff. We started using this about 2 years ago because the folks out there were screaming for it. Let's have a look at the 88. Same thing. Nothing happening. Only 8 lights this time. Only makes sense, right? Same thing. Programming center. Down that drop-down panel. So I can do IR learning. So I can control any of these sources right through my system. Now, the 88 across the board. Look at this. Same thing, RNet link in and out. We talked about that. But now I have 8 keypad ports, one for each of the 8 zones. I have 6 sets of amplified speaker outputs. Yes, I said it was 8 zone. But zone 7 and 8 are preamp out only. I have to use outboard amplifiers for zone number 7 and 8. Okay? These guys, again, inevitably in a system this size, you're going to have a couple of large zones, great room, the outdoor zone, what have you. And so you're going to use outboard amp anyway. So why throw more amps on here at that point, right? Plus, with this guy, I have 8 source inputs instead of 6. And I have buffered loop outputs for each of all 8 sources. So with this guy, I can easily stack up to 6 controllers and daisy chain my sources between controllers. Goes to the input side, the source goes to the input side, and then out to the input on the next controller, and then out to the input on the next controller, and then out, and so on. Times 6, all the way up to 48 zones. Imagine that. A little more substantial paging section. This one works the same as the 66. Only I have a audio control, gain control for my paging system as well. So we can't destroy speakers by voice will destroy speakers much quicker than music will, put it that way. Then I have preamp outputs for all 8 zones. So I can take every single zone in this system, like zone number 6 here. I could run a pair of speakers off that guy and then run out of my preamp outs into a amplifier, drive more speakers for that zone, okay? So again, pre-outs for all 8 zones on this guy. This one is 40 watts per channel by 2 to each of 8 zones. Then we have the same thing as far as Ethernet, routed IR, digital audio inputs, a bank of triggers here to work with, and Bluetooth as well. So here it is. 8 source inputs, 6 amplified zones at 40 by 2. Zone 7 and 8 are preamp out. 8 buffered loop outputs, 8 preamp outputs as well. 3 digital audio source inputs, excuse me. Full system control with the Myra Sound app. And then once again, supports Bluetooth with your optional BTC1X that'll plug in right there. Same thing with the line outputs for here. Is number 6 is the last where I can use speakers right off of the controller. That would be zone number 6. So now for zone number 7, we're dealing with an amplifier. Zone number 8, we're dealing with an amplifier. And I always got to add a sub in there. Got to be a sub. Put a little boom in the room. Multiple controllers. Here we are with our MCA88. We're stacking them up. We're going our RNet link out to in, out to in, out to in, and so on. The other controllers are up here somewhere. And making sure that we take our sources, plug them to the source input, take the output, connect it to the input on controller 2, output on there to input on controller 3, boom. And all I'm doing now is taking that source 2 signal coming in right here, and I'm sharing it between all these guys. And I make sure I take my controller ID switch and set it at controller number 1, controller number 2, controller number 3, right? Make my connection here. And I can do up to 6 of these like this for all the way up to 48 zones. Think about that. That's a monster system. Web config, that's how you get in there and unlock this stuff. As Pete mentioned in the beginning, Russ Sound certified installers, you know, we're at about 11,000 worldwide now. And if you're not a Russ Sound certified installer and you want to go set up a MCA controller, you're out of luck, pal. That's all I can say. Job site that connect to the controller, get themselves into web config, put in their credentials, and boom. They can go in now and configure this guy. But I'll tell you something. Web config is so easy. I've watched sales guys stand there with their phone in their hand and program one of these. And by the way, I'm guilty of being one of those sales guys. And completely set up one of these from my phone in like 10 minutes, you know. That's how easy this is. Anyone can understand this. This is not PC Power Tools, my friends. And if you remember PC Power Tools, a lot of us lost some hair over that one. That was a 3-day class. But you connect to and unlock the MCA series using a tablet or phone to easily configure it using our web config browser-based software. It is easy, it is fast, but you need to be an RCI. Otherwise, no credentials. If you want to become an RCI, you can get a hold of Russ Sound, either sales department or the tech support department, and they will be glad to help you along with that process. It's easy, but you got to get in. Once you get in there, you can assign zone and source names, network configuration. You can do automatic firmware updates, zone trim. You can do enable or disable all on participation for each zone, source type and source volume trim, switch between digital and analog inputs, source and zone linking, as well as IR programming, as we talked about. And if that's not enough, you get in and do all this stuff as well. Macros, series of control commands that execute sequentially off of a single button press. Makes life easy. Save and load files, enable, disable paging in a zone by zone configuration, keypad buttons. You can hide a function behind a function if you want to. Power management, backup and restore, all that stuff through web config. Only if you're an RCI. Because you got to remember, all of our products ship locked and cannot be set up unless unlocked by a Rust Sound certified installer. Hardwired interface options, yes, people still do use them. Matter of fact, very useful for areas like, for example, if you were going to use the SLK1, this is for lower price. Not have your app in your hand when you're in there doing laundry and stuff like that. You know, like the laundry room, utility room, something like that, where you just want to listen to music and maybe skip a track here or there, or you just want to change station or something. So lower priority areas, the SLK1, nice way to go. SLK2, this is a double gang. This is full, absolute full system control. Anything you can pretty much do on any other method, you can do through this interface right here. So plus it has a clock, it has sleep timer, it has all that stuff built right in. Favorites 1 and 2 get used more than anything else on these keypads. Maybe your favorite blues station here, and maybe your favorite sports station here. You walk in the room, all you do is hit F1, boom, it goes straight to that, starts playing. Don't even have to power it up. SLK1, single gang. SLK2, double gang. The XTS Plus, this guy is a work of art. I got to tell you, this is a beautiful piece right here. I love the size of it. I love the performance, the features. You get the embedded My Rust Sound app on here. And I'll tell you something, when you want to control your system through XTS, you have full system control. Got a beautiful display, adjustable brightness. It runs the My Rust Sound app, controls any zone in the system right from one controls point. Built-in prox sensor is very cool. This thing isn't lit up all the time. About 18 inches of it, a foot or so, and it'll come light up for you. So plus a better PoE design. This one runs much cooler, much more efficient than the prior model. So and it supports all the MCA series and Extreme series as well. So the My Rust Sound app, again, a lot of work has been done on the app. Control your sources, settings, metadata, album display, album art, presets for all your favorites, demo mode, you name it. Beautifully done. And you'll see some new screens in here. I'll get images of those pretty quick. It's already ready to go, but you guys can already use it. But I just didn't touch up that slide. But the home screen, for example, is just beautiful. It's awesome. Now, we have done some great updates for the My Rust Sound app that are all really wrapped around the MBX. But we, a little while ago, when we released version 10.02.05 of My Rust Sound, it was an important update that prepared our RCIs in the field for these new features that we just released for MBX. Because users will now see a visible difference when that MBX is updated to 1.04.09. And also, minor bug fixes, a change to the way Rust Sound devices are discovered in Android. But products supported are the My Rust Sound app for iOS, one for Android, XTS, and XTS Plus. That's what the products supported are. And the key features with these new updates adds background support for Napster. Yeah, Napster now part of the family. We have support for Napster online streaming service now. So, and then you got to make sure that the MBX is up to 4.2 and that the MCA is up to 4.02. We'll talk about that in a sec. But add support for app favorites as well. Adds album art support for favorites. That's very cool. And updated device discovery for Android and a few other little bug fixes. So basically, in order to use these updates, the My Sound app, that latest version was 10.2.5, 0205, excuse me. And must have at least that on there. And then on MCA, 04.02.05. And then on your MBX, 01.04.09. For each device will require an update. And go in and manually push these, because right now with all the confusion going on out there and all that, we're not pushing automatic updates out right now at this moment, because we have a lot of updates, as you can see right here, and we have 7 different models, but there's thousands of them all over the world, and we don't want to just push those updates out to everybody and just leave them to their own devices. So we're going to wait until things calm down a little bit, and you guys, ladies and gentlemen, will be able to get out there in the field and visit your customers again, and then you can go in and do all these updates. This is not a required update. It's optional. Okay, this is only if you want to have the album art in your app for favorites. And if you want to be able to have Napster, for example, otherwise system is fine as it is. And then when you do these updates, then the new screens will pop up. You'll have support for Napster. You'll have album art on your favorites, all kinds of good stuff. So, but favorites, it's been a easiest, fastest way to access your music, right? So now we've added album art to favorites. I mean, check this out. This is so much better than just seeing the station call letters here. So it makes it much easier to tell at a glance. And you can play these back on any device on the network as well. So streaming service for Napster is now built in, album art for favorites, and app favorites. So app favorites, first of all, you're able to copy favorites from one room to another in seconds, rather than doing them individually. RCIs now have an easy way to demo the system after the install and can push favorites to any room. And app-based favorites are individual and by your device. So whichever you do, it lives on your device. So your app favorites are favorites that live on your phone, but you can easily play them anywhere. Room favorites live on the device in the room. Okay, that's how that works. So it allows each person in the home to have their own favorites available in any room. And so you just choose that button right there to store a favorite. Excuse me. Yes, a favorite as a portable app favorite that can be played on any device. Choose this guy to do a room favorite that can only be played back in that same room. And then the location of app-based favorites in the My Sound app right there. So as you can see, it's just so simple. MBX. These guys are awesome. They really are. If you haven't tried these yet, and we well know, what a lot of folks are doing in the field, and some of the systems that are being installed out there, that the problem is, though, it's hard to make money on those guys, though, isn't it? Well, with MBX, you can make some money. That's the big deal. Not only that, high performance, state-of-the-art audio streaming, MBX series, fairly new from Russ Sound. There's a bunch of these out in the field. They're selling very, very well. And the more the installers are putting in, the more they want to put them in, because where they were previously putting in other brand name systems, They put in a Russ sound system and found out that they doubled their profit margin and said, hey, this ain't a bad idea. Let's start selling instead of caving to the customer all the time. Sell them something. You make them happy. It sounds better. No question about it. So our streamers are designed to be a simple to install and configure streaming media solution. We have single audio streamers for a single room or for a whole house, multi-room system. Can expand all the way out to 32 rooms of streaming. It's controllable with the MyRuss Sound app and fully compatible with XTS. You can use Alexa, Google Assistant voice, many ways to control this guy, plus onboard browser-based web configuration, accessible from a smartphone or tablet to set all this up. There's 2 units here in the MBX series right now. The only that is designed to use with any audio system out there. Anything. Doesn't have to be a Russ sound system. You can take this guy and plug it into a 40-year-old amplifier if you have an audio input. And all you can do is connect this guy to the network and control it with the app. And or you can use it as a source in a Russ sound system. Highly versatile, very popular. Our competitors even love this piece. The MBX amp, this guy is a streaming amplifier. This guy is 50 watts by 2 at 8 ohms, but it's also 4 ohms stable, 70 watts aside at 4 ohms, stable all day long, sounds beautiful. We have a cool feature built into our MBX amp called soft clipping, and it'll round off those clipped edges for you and create a nice smooth curve to keep you from destroying your brand new IC series speakers. But with MBX, look at this next gen processor. This guy is ultra fast. More features. Wi-Fi and Bluetooth available on both. Easy room grouping, even much easier through Chromecast built in. This great way to control this guy by using Chromecast built in. Front panel controls at your fingertips, volume up and down, favorite storage, power on and off. You have digital and analog inputs on both, digital analog outputs on both, and a 12-volt trigger as well. So the pre, for example, add it to any system. Here I just clipped out a piece of image of a Sony receiver from the 1970s or 80s. I don't remember which one it was. Around the 80s, I believe. And but I had an open source input, so I could add MBX to that guy and then control it using my app. Use it with any audio system. This is what it looks like right here. You have your Ethernet port right there for connection. You have a USB port right there where you can do a flash drive or USB hard drive. If you got a hard drive kicking around, you know, some of these drives, we've been ripping tunes on these things for years, you know, thousands of tunes on a drive. Why let it go to waste? Just plug it into here and you get all that available to you. All DLNA content. And trigger output. So to fire up an outboard amplifier with the power button on here. Audio input, we can add another audio source to here. And audio outs, we got regular analog or digital line output. Kid's gonna love that one. As a matter of fact, if I was going to just take this guy, use it as a source with an MCA controller, I'd use that guy right there. That's the way to go. So, but not much going on here. It's a pretty simple device. You got to remember, though, you do have a couple of modes for this guy because I remember I mentioned you can use it with any system or you can use it with a Russ Sound controller. So it has two modes of operation. It has source mode and zone mode. Source mode is if you're connecting it to an MCA controller. All you do is go into general settings and web config and select zone mode right there, or source mode right there. And source mode is if you're going to connect it to an MCA controller. Zone mode is if you're going to connect it to just a outboard amplifier or somebody else's stereo receiver or what have you. So source mode and zone mode, very easy. Right into general settings and device setup when you go in to set up your MBX. Now in this case, I'm showing an example in source mode where I got that digital output going right to here, and now I would go in and set it into source mode, because instead of that old Sony receiver, now we're using an MCA 88, and we're using the MBX Pre as a source for a Russ sound controller. So it's a Russ sound source. That's all you need to remember. Now, as I mentioned, this guy right here, not much going on. It looks simple. It looks so simple, it's ridiculous. When you look at this, you go, geez, I can't do much with that. It's 2 inches high. It's 7.5 inches wide. It's about 7 inches deep. And it weighs a whopping 1/2 pound. You can hold it in the palm of your hand. Simple. Right? Let's take a look at what we can do with simple. Let's put an amplifier, a pair of speakers. Plug that guy into there. XTS Plus. I got my app for control. I'm going to connect the TV in here as well. I also can use another source, so I'm going to use a disc changer. But as you can see, a lot more than meets the eye. You could do this in every room in the house if you wanted to. And everyone would have their private little system. MBX amp. This is a streaming zone amplifier, 50 by 2 at 8 ohm, 70 by 2 at 4 ohm with soft clipping. Scalable up to 32 rooms and integrates with local TV very nicely, as a matter of fact. Subwoofer output on this guy as well. Built-in Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, and it is Wi-Fi certified. So got great Wi-Fi antennas on board. And you can run it either wired or wireless, either way. Either way. IR learning for volume and mute as well. So this is a great. Let's take a look under the hood. All good under the hood, right? Look at this. Beautifully designed, beautifully laid out. We didn't cut any corners at all. The only way we could have made it any better in the eyes of some audiophiles out there is if we put a metal cap on it. And then it would be a metal box, and they'd be happy. But we like to put a plastic type cover on it because it's much lighter, less expensive, easier to ship, all that stuff. Less weight. So the amplifier section right here, high performance Texas Instruments based Class D digital amplifier. And it's got this really cool, nicely built aluminum heatsink right here. This is keeps this guy running cool. And the cooler your amplifier is running, the less likely it is to distort. Heat creates noise. That's the way it works. So as long as you can wick that heat away with a high performance aluminum type heatsink, it'll keep that amplifier very cool. And that guy, remember, you can run that at 4 ohms, okay? 70 watts per side at 4 ohms. Thing's going to get a little warm. Then we also have our audio streaming processor right here. And that's what does all of your processing for network-based content. Plus, located way over here in the corner, away from all this other stuff over here, those are our antennas for Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. So very nicely done there as well. And also we have this advanced power supply that This guy's small, toroidal type, but powerhouse, tons of headroom, more power than it can supply more power than you would ever need, and that's very efficient. And again, what it does is it provides lots and lots of headroom because your MBX isn't running out of juice. Also, that's our soft clipping circuitry built right there, that board right there. And so once again, as we all know, clipping is bad, but what this soft clipping circuit will do is it'll prevent the amp from being overdriven and distortion-free sound. So you can crank it up a little bit louder, and if it does start to buzz a little bit, it's not going to destroy those speakers. But in most cases, soft clipping will actually remove clipping altogether. And your input for IR right there, it'll take a slim 1 IR sensor. And then we also have gold-plated 5-way binding posts as well, and a subwoofer output. So that's what this guy looks like in the cross section. As you can see, beautifully built. We didn't cut any corners. This guy will go up against anything in the business. So as you can see, as what you saw on the MBX Pre, only you have your speaker outputs and your subwoofer out, because this is an amplified unit. Okay, that's the key here. And we also once again have another source input right there for you as well. Always a good extra subwoofer, source input you find later on down the road is when you start looking for them. Now once again, MBX amp doesn't look too dangerous. Same size as the Pre, only this guy goes to a whopping 1 pound. So once again, let's see what we can do with simple. Look at that. I can parallel speakers here because I don't mind going down to 4 ohms. Just going to get louder faster. Outboard amp for a second pair of speakers over here. The Myra Sound app for control. XTS, got to just plug that guy into the network. I can add the TV audio out to digital in on here. NAS drive going right down to this input right over here for right there. Boop. And excuse me. So, sorry about that. You can put a NAS on the system, add a subwoofer, you guys get the drift. A lot of stuff you can do with this. Now, the amp does come with mounting brackets, okay? The MBX Pre does not. The amp has mounting brackets, tabletop or shelf mount. You can use either way. And with this guy, you got to make sure it's got some cooling, okay? But the shelf top or shelf mount, and then wall brackets right here, those are included with the MBX amp, okay? Not with the Pre. If you want some for an MBX Pre, you let sales know and they'll get them out to you. And remember, you got to make sure that you have 2U or higher, for ventilation. Streamers can get pretty warm, so you got to make sure they get good ventilation as well. And we always recommend that you set it up using Chromecast built in. With Chromecast built in, you can, it not only doubles the size of your music library on board, your internet network services, literally double them up. But it's also the Chromecast ecosystem, many other manufacturers, compatibility. We all play together very nicely in perfectly synchronized audio. Lots of other folks out there. If you were at CEDIA, you got to see we had a whole line of competitors, Sony, Polk, you name it, all of them were there. And all playing in harmony with the MBX series, all because of the Chromecast ecosystem on Chromecast built in. So it's a great way to go. And one of the biggest benefits is that your phone or tablet isn't needed to maintain stream starts on the MBX. You can use your phone as a phone. You don't have to worry about that. And you can stream up 24-bit audio as well. And plus, easy room grouping. You can use voice to do room grouping in MBX. So all you got to do is go on youtube.com, Russound FMP, and you can check out our short how-to videos. And this one is setting up Chromecast on Russound MBX. And web config in the MBX, you can go in and do network configuration, DHCP, static device name, updates, zone and source mode, source volume trim, and the AirPlay password. That's all. That's all. 7 steps, period. And if you don't care about AirPlay password, you can cut it down to 6. Now let's wrap this up. I only got a couple of slides left here. I'm sorry if I'm going over by a few minutes, but I knew I had a lot to talk about, and I guess I got a little long-winded in a couple of spots. But IC series, these are far and away the finest speakers you have ever seen from Russound. These are speakers that I would put up against anybody out there. I'm a speaker guy. I throughout my career as an audio salesman, as a sales rep, working for a manufacturer, trainer, whatever, I have always been curious of what speakers sound like from different manufacturers. I just got to know. Well, when I heard these, I said, put everything else away. And once these catch on, everyone else is in trouble because these things sound awesome. Not only that, they have Swift Lock. Swift Lock, very cool. They see other speakers, when you mount it in the ceiling, you got to cut the hole in the ceiling, you got to hold the speaker up there, you got to take out the screw gun, you got to screw in 4 screws, blah, blah. Yeah, well, here, you cut the hole, you grab it by the Easy Grip pin cushion Easy Grip design right here. The bridge is designed to be grabbed. Go ahead, grab it. That's how we made it that way. So you can grab that and hold it up in the hole, and then you touch 3 blue buttons. Boom, boom, boom. And what you see is that the dogs release when you push that blue button. They automatically release, lock in that speaker right in place. And then if you want to take them out, you just do a little quarter turn on this Phillips head screw right here. And then you'll see that pop. You'll hear it pop back out. And don't get your fingers in there. I'll tell you, when you're doing this, I did it. I did it. Brad said, watch your fingers. And you know, something came out of my mouth a second later. When that thing sprung right on my little finger. But very, very nicely done. Just beautifully built. Incredible sound. Featuring pin cushion Easy Grip and Swift Lock. You can put in 3 of these speakers in the time it takes to put in 1 of the other. And I'll tell you something, that 3 dogs are faster than 4. Try it. You'll see. So, with this new IC series speakers, our very best sounding speakers ever. Also the very best built. You take these in your hand and you're going to look at something, you're going to go, yes, this is a real speaker. And patented Swift Lock, toolless installation. Throw the drill away. No screw gun needed for these guys. The pin cushion Easy Grip design for easy one-handed installation. Plus paintable edgeless grills as well, available in square or round. And then you have a logical step between models. You have the 610, which is your all-purpose. You have your 620, 820, which is primary listening areas. And then you have the 630 series, which is for critical use. This is the best ceiling speaker I've ever heard. And we've also now released the in-wall version. Okay, that gives you a good chance to see those dogs on the Swift lock here on this guy. This guy uses Swift lock. We got 4 little buttons on this one, because on a big old square speaker like this, 4 dogs. Period. But it's the perfect in-wall choice for any primary listening area of the home. Swift lock, acoustically matched to the 620, so you can match these in your home as needed. 620s, IC 620s in the ceiling, and IW 620s in the wall. So this really should be your brand new favorite in-wall. And I got to tell you something, in-walls are much better. Why do we all want to do some Rust Sound business? Well, the reason you folks out there, what you tell me, is that it's profitable. All our gear doesn't work unless it's unlocked by a authorized Rust Sound dealer. Professional grade solutions as well, only available through professional integrators, never direct to the consumer as our competitors do. Just think, you get to keep it out of the hands of the consumer. You get to make the money on the installation. You get the credit for the great sounding system on the end. Plus the free My Rust Sound app and the web config. Easy. Plus our streaming capabilities. Got Bluetooth and AirPlay built in just about everything we do. So this is something that and for any training down the line, I have some new stuff in the works right now. I'm working on one called System Expansion. Primarily going to deal with amplifiers and speakers. Why, how, when, all that stuff. We're going to cover that. You're going to get very familiar with amplifiers and speakers on the next webinar. But you go back into this catalog of webinars right here. Everything we've ever done is in there. I got about 60 of them in there. Plus, we have the YouTube library now, short video clips, so you can get in there and get a quick tutorial on how to use some of the features, or maybe some sales tips on some of our gear as well. So this is who we are. This is where to find us. When? You might want to hit the print screen on this one. Save it to your folder, your Rust Sound folder. And I want to thank you for joining us today. That's all we have today. I hope that you got to know the products a little bit better today. I hope you feel a little more comfortable. Don't forget, always open for questions. I'm going to leave this webinar open for like another 10 minutes so you can finish with your questions. Looked like there were quite a few rolling in here, and I imagine that Pete and Steve are feverishly banging out answers here. But once again, thank you for your time.
Thanks a million, Dan.
Thank you for your business.
Thank you so much. Boy, that was great. And lots of questions coming in. Holy smokes, my fingers are on fire. Great questions, guys. Thank you so much. I think I answered all of them. There's one straggler here. Can the MCA 66 and 88 multi-room amps play music stored on my phone? Well, you can stream using AirPlay. And
AirPlay. Anything that lives on your device can be streamed to the system.
Yep, and you can also hook up a separate storage device, like a USB stick or network drive or something like that, and you can access that through the MCA, or I'm sorry, the My Rust Sound app as well.
Plus, keep in mind that all DLNA, anything DLNA can be pulled and played through the system. It can be pulled right off your computer, such as your iTunes and things like that as well. that requires a installation of a third party that we usually recommend in tech support to use Twonky, and that will be a third party provider for you to be able to go in and access even things like iTunes.
Cool. Thank you. Couple other quick ones. We're just gonna keep this open for like 10 minutes, and then if you have further questions, by all means reach out to your local rep. They know how to get a hold of me. If they can't answer the question, then they can put you in contact with me, or they can contact me for support. So a couple other questions and comments. First of all, Christina Elliott said, Dan Cheris, you are the best trainer, all in caps. So I happen to agree. Another one, thanks guys, that was
Christine
great.
knows her Rust sound stuff. I'll tell you that.
That's awesome.
I've seen a system in Washington State that she did up in Seattle, and it was 36 zones of Rust
Holy
sound.
smokes. Well, that tells you guys how expansive and robust you can make the platform. So yeah, it really is a very flexible and dynamic platform that you can use. How's the app performance on the Android platform? It's fantastic, Joseph. We actually use our keypads are an Android-based device, so we use that for our control platform as well. So it works really, really well. Do you have a wall mount subwoofer rectangle shape? We do not have one. Cable into the MCA 88, but TJ left and I don't really understand his question. So will there be a new X-Zone 70 volt equivalent unit coming out as X source is now dead? Well, that's a very good question, Kevin. I'm a big proponent of that. I'd like to see another X-Zone 70 volt coming out with the MBX platform embedded. And we did actually show some things, some prototypes at the ISE show. So I would say stay tuned. You never know
what our engineers are up to.
That's right. Is there a way to hook up MBX amp with an MCA 88 controller? Well, you can absolutely hook up a MBX pre would probably be a better way to do that. But Dan, you want to take that one? An MBX amp?
I would also recommend that you just use the pre. I mean, if you have a MBX amp in one room and you have a pre on your MCA, you can, the two of them will play very nicely together. But you just take an MBX pre, you make sure you go into web config, get it into. But the amplifier on board for the MBX amp, that would be totally wasted in a case like that. So
yeah, I think the pre would be a better solution, because then you're just paying for an amp that you're not really using. So,
and it's a good one.
It's a good one. Yeah. But you can expand. You can have like if you need a ninth zone, right? You can add an MBX pre. I'm sorry, an MBX amp onto that MCA 88. Why can't I use Spotify in multiple zones with the MBX? Well, you can do that with Chromecast, right, Dan?
Yes.
Yeah, you can do that with Chromecast. I think that's a limitation with Spotify Connect, isn't it?
Yeah, that's something I would defer to tech support or Colin, actually. Colin is he is the expert in the house on streaming services and what, why, where, when, all that.
Yeah, so just send an email to your local rep with questions you have about using Spotify, and then we'll try and help you with that. But
just one thing I want to say about that as well is that one of the things to remember is, what area you're in is hard for me to address. We have people on this webinar from some, 30 something countries all around the world. So whether they even get Spotify, and stuff like that, that's why it's best to, get a hold of our tech support, let them know where you are. They'll be familiar with anything that's been in that area, if there's any issues, whatever. But these
Okay.
guys are great. Help you.
Okay. Just a couple last questions here. So let's see. Uh, uh, Savant and Crestron integration and control within their OS. So we do have some Savant control, Joseph. I know that some has been developed. So contact your local distributor and or sales rep, because they should have something that they can offer you for some control there. And then we are exploring, maybe some further control as well. Crestron, we are that is in the works, but it was slowed down with the virus issue, because the company that we have doing the driver development is limited right now. So let's see, Crestron Home, I think that kind of falls into the same response there. Has thought been given to a rackable multi-stream MBX pre for light commercial market? Well, I don't know of any rack mount version of that. The MBX amps we sell, I think, don't we sell a rack mount kit for those? Otherwise, I know that some
It's
people
actually
certainly
they
do.
got there's wall brackets, but
Okay.
and the wall brackets come in the box with the amp, not with the pre.
Okay. So to answer your question, Kevin, no plans right now, but people certainly do rack mount these. You just get a separate rack shelf and faceplate.
Make sure you for ventilation.
Okay.
Very highly recommended
That's a
that if
good
you use a
point.
rack mount or shelf mount, it's got 2 spaces.
Okay. Control 4 integration. Honestly, Giancarlo, I don't know the answer to that one. C4 integration, I just can't remember where things are at with C4. So I'm sorry. I don't have,
You mean Control 4 Rust Sound integration?
yeah. Yep.
Oh yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, Control 4 is actually a very, very good partner. And
Yeah.
we integrate very nicely, and they have all the drivers, everything. So
Yeah. And now RTI integration just came up. And yes, we did just finish up a driver with cooperation with RTI, and that
yep.
driver is phenomenal. So I think it's in final beta testing now, but it did take forever, Brad.
Well, we're
I
finding
agree.
that
And there's
we're
a
finding
story
in
behind that.
MBX.
It definitely was not Rust Sound, and it was
We're
not
finding
RTI.
we're finding that MBX is very popular in third party right now,
Yes, exactly.
because everybody loves it.
That's
They
one of the
love the
great
streamer.
benefits. Right. That's one of the great benefits. So we're going to wrap things up, but just in closing, guys, I just want to re-emphasize the fact that I was an integrator for 20 years. 20 years. I was a professional integrator, and I eventually built up my integration company and sold it. And listen, I sold all kinds of different products when I did that. But one thing I always try to do was sell professional grade products, because I felt if I was selling products that that customer could only get from a certified installer like me, not something over the counter that they can go to any retail store or online, that added more value to my business. And so make sure that whatever you're offering in your presentations and your proposals, that they're professional grade products, like the products from Ruston, because they're protected. We developed that RCI program to protect you. We didn't do it for just a marketing campaign or to come up with a fancy term. We did that because we wanted to protect you guys, because Ruston has always been dedicated to the CI community. And frankly, I'm going to go out there and say it, that right now we all need to support each other, and support the companies that are supporting you. Support the guys that are developing for professional grade products exclusively for the CI channel. And that's exactly what Rust Sound is doing. That's why we have great drivers with RTI and URC and Control 4 and Pro Control, and we're working on and Savant, and we're working on many others. That's why we also have unique features in these products, like the ability to program your TV remote into the MBX and MBX Pre so that you can control the volume and mute with the TV remote. It's also a reason why we have triggered outputs and lots of great features. And if you haven't played with one of these, you really need to get one. Just trust me on this. Every single dealer I've talked to that has tried one of these has come back and said, I can't believe the sound quality that comes out of that. And part of it is because it's a really good amplifier that we have in there and great circuitry that we built in, but also it supports high-res audio. So there's a lot of great features in these products, and it doesn't cost a lot more to offer a professional grade product. And all that, if it's $100 more, it's really $100 more profit for you. So support the Rust Sound products, check them out, and thank you so much for your time tonight, or today, this morning. It's evening here, but morning there. And just thanks a lot. Stay healthy, and thank you for your business. And thanks again, Dan, for a great presentation.
Thank you.
Cheers.